Hello, everyone. I'm really pleased to be here with you once again today. I was here in summer, in May. I had the Impact, I took one of the sessions in the Impact seminar, and I'm really pleased to be here again today, talking about becoming a strategic partner, leading with influence, not authority. Now, this isn't just another talk about leadership. This is about recognizing the quiet but powerful role that many of you already play. As executive assistants, you are often the bridge between vision and execution. You're the voice in the room when your executives aren't present. You're the person who catches things before they fall through the cracks. And yet, many EAs still hesitate to own the fact that they lead not with authority or title, but with influence, insight, and positioning. So today's conversation is about helping you step into that power on purpose. We're going to be exploring how to become a strategic partner, someone who doesn't just support the business, but also shapes it. How does that sound? If that sounds fantastic, put a one in the chat. Okay, so let us go through today's session. I'm going to just run through what we're going to be talking about real quick. I'm going to be talking about the difference between influence and authority, why EAs are crucial strategic partners. We're also going to be talking through the 4 pillars of influence, and then sharing some real world applications. We'll go through some challenges and how to solve them, and then there'll be some key takeaways at the end. How does that sound? If that sounds fantastic, put a 1 in the chat. Okay, so before we do all of that today, why don't we talk about let's focus on the topic why EAs matter. What's your role? For many of us, our roles are evolving. Your roles are evolving as EAs. We live in a matrixed, collaborative. We work in matrix and collaborative organizations, and the ability to influence is no longer optional. It's now essential. So many of us, or again, many of you, I used to work as a project manager, and many of us led or lead cross-functional teams. We work with stakeholders who don't report to us, but we navigate competing priorities, shifting deadlines, and all without direct control. So this session is for you if you've ever thought, how do I get people to buy into my ideas, and how do I push back without offending anyone? Or you may be asking, how do I stop chasing people and start building alignment? That's what we're going to be diving into today. So buckle your seatbelts, and before we start, I'll just say this: influence is a skill, and like any skill, it can be developed. Okay, so let's go into the meat of today's message. So, authority versus influence. Authority is power that is given by position. So that is power that is granted to a person, and influence is power that is earned through trust, expertise, and relationships. So authority might come from titles, might come from reporting lines, or might even come from a hierarchy, but influence comes from relationships, consistency, and trust, like I mentioned. Now, most EAs operate in a space where they don't necessarily have the positional authority, but the great ones are very influential. They know how to move people, they know how to shape decisions and communicate with confidence. So you're not chasing power, you're cultivating presence, because when you lead with influence, people follow even when they don't have to. Yeah. Okay. Now let's look at why EAs matter more now more than ever. So it's not just because work is fast paced, it's because your role touches every part of the organization. So first, you are the gatekeepers of information and access. So you don't just manage a calendar, you manage priorities. You decide what gets through, you decide what gets seen, and what gets handled now versus later. You control the flow of information. And in today's busy and noisy world, that makes you incredibly powerful. You protect your executives' time, you protect their energy, you protect their focus, and that makes you a key player in the success of any leader. Now, the second thing is that you are trusted confidence to leaders. So EAs have a level of access that most people don't. You see the unfiltered version of your executive, you see the stress, you see the indecision, you see the pressure. You hear the real talk before the boardroom version comes out. And that means your perspective is often more grounded than any others. And when a leader trusts you enough to confide in you, you become more than just support. You become a sounding board. The third thing is insights into multiple departments. You are in meetings across functions. You hear what the sales team's concerns are. You hear what the operations team's blockers are. You hear what the marketing team's plans are. You are in a unique position to see how the moving parts all connect or how they don't connect. And that kind of insight is rare. It makes you the bridge, the person who can spot gaps before they widen and bring people together when silos form. And then lastly, no, not lastly, the fourth one is that you're drivers of communication and execution. You ensure the right people are in the right room. You chase up the you chase up the follow-throughs. You know who's dragging their feet and who is over-promising. You help turn ideas into action, and you do it quietly without any fuss. But without you, half the things that should be done or should happen simply wouldn't. And then finally, you are the organizational glue. You hold it all together. You are the pulse of the business. You're keeping things flowing without priorities clashing. When people are stretched, they come to you, or you are the one who holds them together. And when tensions rise, there you are. So you do the work that doesn't always get noticed, but would be painfully obvious if it stopped. So when we say that you matter more than ever, we really mean it. And in an age of digital overload, fast-moving priorities, and constant change, a sharp, strategic, and emotionally intelligent executive or assistant, rather, sorry, intelligent executive assistant isn't just a nice to have, you are mission critical. Yeah. Now, I want you to pause and ask yourself this very important question. Am I simply managing calendars, or am I helping shape priorities? I want to challenge you to think bigger, because strategic partnership is not about doing more tasks, but about elevating the value of the role by influencing better decisions and outcomes. Okay. So let's talk about the four keys, or the four key pillars in building influence. The first is credibility and expertise. The second is emotional intelligence. The third is communication and storytelling. And then lastly, strategic thinking. So let's dive into pillar one, credibility and influence. Credibility is the foundation of your influence. Without it, even the best ideas fall flat. First, first, know your business and your executive's world. It's very important to know this. You need to understand the context behind meetings, the decisions that are being made, why they're being made, and then the priorities, not just the logistics. And when you grasp the bigger picture, you can anticipate needs and add real strategic value. The second thing is to be reliable, be consistent, and be detail oriented. Your position is built in the small things, like following through, spotting mistakes, staying organized, and handling sensitive information with care. And that consistency earns trust over time. The third thing is to speak the language of the C-suite. So this means making clear, concise, and focused This means being clear, concise, and focused on outcomes. So know what matters to leadership and communicate that in a way that shows that you do. You see, credibility isn't about knowing everything. It's about showing that you're competent, you're thoughtful assistant, and you're ready to contribute at a higher level. Now let's look at pillar 2, which is emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is what sets great assistants apart. It's about it's your ability to read people, to manage emotions, and to navigate dynamics with sensitivity. So the first thing you need to do is to read the room. Pay attention to tone, pay attention to body language and unspoken tension. Sometimes what's not said is more important than what is, and being tuned in helps you anticipate issues and adjusts in real time. The second thing is to manage up and down effectively. So you're often the bridge between senior leaders and the wider team. And that means knowing how to communicate differently, depending on who you're dealing with. So supporting your executive while also managing relationships across the organization. That's really key. And then the last thing is to that empathy builds trust. So people want to feel seen and understood. And when you show empathy, especially under pressure, you create safety, and that strengthens your influence. Emotional intelligence isn't soft, it's strategic, and it's one of your greatest assets as a leader without authority. Pillar 3 is about how you communicate, because communication is influence in action. So first, be the bridge between stakeholders. You often have visibility across departments that don't always talk to each other, and your role is to connect the dots, make sure that the right people are aligned, and prevent miscommunication before it happens. The second thing is to translate complex information clearly. Now, not everyone has time for the full backstory, and your job is to simplify, to summarize, and to clarify. So whether that's in an email, whether that's in the briefing note, or a quick hallway conversation, clear communication builds confidence in your ability. And then lastly, use stories and context to drive clarity. Sometimes people don't move because they don't understand the why. And a simple story or an example can help people connect the dots, especially when you're trying to influence decisions or highlight risks. The best communicators aren't the loudest, they're the clearest. And that level of clarity creates real influence. Now let's look at the fourth pillar, which is strategic thinking. And this is where you shift from being reactive to truly being proactive. So the first thing is understand the long-term goals. To make smart decisions day to day, you need to know where the business and where your executive are heading. And when you understand the bigger picture, you can align your actions with what matters most. Second thing is to offer insights, not just updates. Don't just report what's happening, share what it means. So spot patterns, flag risks early, and suggest smarter ways of working, suggest smarter ways of moving forward. You see, strategic EAs think ahead and they speak up. And lastly, prioritize time and tasks accordingly. So everything can feel urgent, but not everything is important. So use your judgment to understand your executive's time and focus. So your executive's time and focus, making sure that energy is spent on what actually moves the needle. Being strategic doesn't mean having all the answers. It means thinking a few steps ahead and helping your executive do the same. Now, let's look at some real world or real life scenarios. And I'm sure many of you have faced something similar before. So scenario one is you might be, maybe you're in a you're in a scenario where you're reviewing your executive's calendar and notice a meeting that's just doesn't quite make any sense. Maybe it's low value, maybe the timing is terrible, it's poor timing, or maybe your executive doesn't really need to be in that room. Now, in that moment, you have a choice. Do you ignore it and let it happen, or do you step into your role as an executive partner? And here's what influence looks like in practice. One, you flag it. Don't just say this meeting looks pointless. You approach it with context. So you can say something along the lines of, I've just noticed this meeting with the product team. Given the agenda, it looks like it may be more of a status update. Do you want me to check if a summary will do? And then the next thing is you suggest an alternative. You can say something along the lines of, would it be helpful to send X person, you can name the person instead, and ask for a short readout. That way you can protect that hour for your prep time. So you're not just managing time, you're managing energy, you're managing focus, and you're bringing strategic value to your executive. This is how you show you that you understand the bigger picture, not just what's on the calendar, but why it matters. And that level of influence, and that's influence in action. That's what makes you a strategic partner. Now let's look at the second scenario. This is the cross-team disconnect. So imagine that you're sitting in multiple meetings and you're hearing updates from different departments and something isn't quite lining up. Maybe one team is waiting on input that hasn't come through yet. Maybe two departments are working in silos and don't realize that they're duplicating efforts. Or maybe there's a growing tension and no one said it out loud yet. Now, here's where your influence truly matters or truly shows. You're not just there to take notes or pass on messages. You are in a position to connect the dots. So first, you raise it diplomatically. You can say something along the lines of, I've noticed the ops team is planning X, but the marketing team seems to be heading in a different direction. Would it make sense or would it be helpful to get everyone aligned before next week's deadline? The second thing is that then you then suggest a touch point. So you can say, happy to schedule a quick sync or roundtable. Even 15 minutes might save us a lot of back and forth later. And lastly, you help build bridges. So that could be making an introduction, clarifying communication, or flagging a tone issue before it becomes a real conflict. You see, you don't need authority to be a connector. You just need awareness and the courage to speak up before a small problem or small disconnect becomes a bigger problem. And when your executive sees that you're not just supporting them, but you're protecting progress, your value goes through the roof. Now, what are the common roadblocks to influence? Before we wrap up, let's name a few of the most common roadblocks that can make it difficult to lead with influence, even when you're doing everything right. The first is not being taken seriously. And this can show up in subtle ways, like being left out of key conversations, ideas being dismissed, or being seen as just the assistant. But the truth is, sometimes people need to be shown how to treat you differently. And that comes from consistently showing up informed, being clear, and being confident. And when you bring insights, not just admin, not just updates, people start to engage with you at a different level. The second thing is fear of overstepping. And many EAs hold back because they don't want to cross the line. And that's understandable. But there's a difference between overstepping and stepping up. You can influence with respect. You can flag an issue, offer a solution, or suggest a smarter approach, all without challenging authority. And it's about how you say it, not just what you say. And then lastly, lack of visibility into strategy. And this is hard. It's hard to be strategic if you are kept in the dark. But here's the opportunity. You need to ask better questions. So request to sit in on certain meetings, debrief with your executive after key decisions. And the more context you have, the more valuable your input becomes. So yes, these roadblocks are real, but they are not permanent, and they are certainly not bigger than your potential to influence them. Your path to influence starts here. So I want to leave you with 5 simple but powerful shifts that can strengthen your influence starting now. First, know your value. You're not just the assistant, you're the enabler, you're the connector, you're the gatekeeper, you're the strategist. Own it. The more you understand your worth, the more others will. The second thing is to stay curious about the business. So don't just focus on your to-do list. Ask, why does this matter? What's the bigger picture here? Curiosity helps you stay one step ahead, and it turns tasks into insights. Thirdly, be proactive, not just reactive. So don't wait to be told, anticipate, flag things early, offer solutions. Executives notice when someone helps them think ahead instead of just keeping up. The fourth point is to build trust, not control. So influence comes from relationships, not from power. Be consistent, be discreet, and be dependable. Trust is your greatest leadership tool. And then finally, speak up with confidence and clarity. You don't need a title to have a voice. You have perspective that matters. You have, when you speak clearly and when you speak calmly and when you speak with context, people listen. You see, influence isn't a personality trait, it's a skill, and it's one you are already using more than you know. So start where you are, use what you have, and lead from exactly where you sit. I want to leave you with 2 things today. One, influence doesn't require title, but it does require intention. You see, the best EAs I've worked with weren't loud, weren't flashy, weren't demanding, but they were trusted. They carried themselves with confidence. They understood their executives' world, and they earned their seat at the table, not by demanding it, but by delivering so consistently it couldn't be denied. So I want to leave you with this reminder. You already have influence. It's now time to wield it with purpose. And then the second thing is, what's one way I can lead? I want you to ask yourself this question. What's one way I can lead with influence this week? I want you to take time out to assess the landscape and take a bold step to lead with influence this week. Thank you so much for your time. I hope this session has been both encouraging and practical. If you've had any light bulb moments or key takeaways, I'd love to hear them. If you also have any questions, I'll be here in the chat, ready to answer the questions. And if you ever want to connect further, if you ever want to ask questions or share your journey, you can connect with me on LinkedIn via the QR code. I'm only a message away. So keep showing up, keep owning your value, and keep leading with quiet confidence. The business world needs you.